Inch 525 BC, 50,000 soldiers march into the Egyptian desert. They are never seen again. No bodies, no wreckage, no survivors. For 25 centuries, the sand has kept its secret. Tonight, we go looking for an army that history swallowed whole. Visual, title card slams in. The army that vanished. In cracked stone-carved font. Sand particle effects falling off the letters. To understand this mystery, you have to understand the man behind it. Cambyses II, king of Persia, son of Cyrus the Great. He inherited the largest empire the world had ever seen. And he wanted more. In 525 BC, he turned his armies south, toward the ancient kingdom of Egypt. He crushed the Egyptian army at Pelusium and took the throne of the pharaohs for himself. But conquest fed his ambition. Cambyses wanted the whole of North Africa, and there was one prize left standing in his way, a place so remote, so sacred, that even his own priests warned him not to touch it. Deep in the western desert sat the oasis of Siwa, home to the Oracle of Ammon, one of the most feared and respected prophets in the ancient world. Even Alexander the Great would later cross 1,000 kilometers of desert just to hear it speak. But the Oracle at Siwa had refused to recognize Cambyses as a legitimate pharaoh. And that, according to the ancient historian Herodotus, was a humiliation Cambyses could not forgive. So the king made a decision that would echo through history. He would send 50,000 of his soldiers across 700 kilometers of open desert to destroy the oracle, burn its temple to the ground, and silence it forever. The army marched west from Thebes, guided by local scouts through some of the most punishing terrain on Earth. Herodotus recorded that they made it as far as an oasis called Karga, roughly the halfway point. There, they rested, refilled their water, and then, according to the only account we have, they disappeared. Herodotus wrote that while the army was crossing the open desert, eating their midday meal, a wind rose from the south. Not an ordinary wind, a wind so violent it lifted the desert itself into the sky. A sandstorm of biblical scale. The sky turned black at midday. Soldiers screamed for each other, but couldn't hear their own voices over the roar. And then, silence. When the storm passed, there was nothing left. No bodies, no bones, no weapons. 50,000 men had simply ceased to exist. For over 2,000 years. Cambyses' Lost Army was dismissed as legend, a story too dramatic to be true. Explorers searched for decades and found nothing. No trace, no grave. It became one of archaeology's most tantalizing ghost stories. Then, in 2009 too, Italian archaeologists, twin brothers, Angelo and Alfredo Costiglioni, claimed to have found something.
For a moment, the world believed the mystery was solved, but Egypt's own antiquities authorities quickly pushed back, and other archaeologists raised serious doubts about the dig's methods and location. To this day, the findings remain unverified and deeply controversial. So what really happened to Cambyses' army? Historians and scientists have spent decades arguing over three competing theories. Theory 1. The storm was real, exactly as Herodotus described, and the army was buried alive beneath dunes that shifted for centuries afterward, erasing every trace. Theory 2, favored by some modern historians, there was no storm at all. The army was ambushed, or simply defected and vanished into a neighboring kingdom rather than face a suicidal desert crossing. And the storm story was invented later to cover up a military embarrassment. Theory 3. It wasn't wind that killed them. It was thirst. 50,000 men, cut off from water in 50-degree heat, dying slowly across days, not minutes, with the storm added later for dramatic effect. Whichever version is true, one fact remains undisputed. An army of 50,000 men marched into the Sahara, and the desert never gave them back. And the oracle that started it all? It survived, untouched, to this day. Some locals in Siwa still say the desert itself rose up to protect it, that the sands are a living guardian, and they will swallow anyone who marches against it with hatred in their heart. Maybe it was a storm. Maybe it was betrayal. Maybe it was simply the desert doing what deserts have always done. But somewhere beneath the dunes of Egypt, 50,000 men are still waiting to be found. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to Global Mystery, because history's darkest secrets are still buried out there, and we're going to keep digging.